Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. DIY Dad here with another fun, exciting project. So this is our laundry room slash storage room in our home. And over the years with kids and toys, it's gotten a little bit insane. We have a couple kind of freestanding shelving units, not really doing it for us anymore. So I'm going to replace these today with a small set of 2x8 shelves. So I'm going to walk you through how I'm going to do that. It's just going to be a simple wood construction with a plywood top. We'll see how it goes as we go. Get it bolted into the wall and off we run. Here we go. So we're back out in the garage. Garage heater is chugging away, and this is what we're looking at for this particular project. I'm going to do everything I can on this one to resist my natural inclination to over-engineer things. I'm keeping this one very simple. So for my shelves, what I've done is I went to just a hardware store. I bought 1/2-inch 4x8 sheets of plywood, 2 of them, and I had the hardware store rip them lengthwise just because it saves me the time of having to dig my table saw out of storage and deal with all of that hassle and mess. So these sheets as they sit are 8 feet long by 2 feet wide, and what I'm going to do is just build a simple box frame underneath them. So I've got my 8-foot 2x4s that run lengthwise. I'm going to be running shorter pieces to go between them, so I'll do 1 on each end and probably 2 spacers across the middle, maybe 3. And then those boxes, once they're built, will get taken downstairs and installed. So I'm going to do all of that pre-building out here and then take it down essentially assembled, but without the plywood on. And then once we get downstairs, each of those frames is going to get attached to the wall, and we'll level them as we do to make sure that they're level, obviously, because my floor is not. And then the right-hand corner that's kind of free-floating, we're going to do just a single 2x4 vertically to give that support. These don't have to hold a ton of weight. No one's going to be climbing these things like a ladder. It's mainly for kids' toys and things like that. So we should be just fine with that from a stability standpoint. So I'm going to get to work cutting and build the boxes. I'll check in when that's done. Then we'll go downstairs and assemble these. Should be a pretty fast project. So here's the overall concept on the frame. So again, it's just the 8-foot stringers and then 21-inch crossbars. I'm going to do 5 of them. So I've got 1 on each end and then 3 across the center. It's probably more stability than I really need, but I bought the wood, so may as well use it. So I'm going to build 4 of these, and then we'll head downstairs for the next part. Okay, we're back down in the basement. So I've got my 4 frames for my shelves down here and staged and ready to go. So now we're going to attach them to the wall. And to do that, I'm going to use one of my favorite tricks, which is to measure up along the wall to where the first shelf is going to be. And I'm going to take just a scrap of 2x4 that's left over from my project and just tack that in with a single nail at the height that's 3.5 inches below the height of where I want the shelf to be. So I want the shelf to be at 18 inches. So I will run this at 14.5 inches. And then that will allow the shelf to sit and rest on it while I get it leveled and balanced in. So it doesn't matter exactly where I put this, or even if it's all that straight. I just want it right there at about that measurement, run a single screw into it, and then I'll be able to take one of those frames and sort of rest it on there, get it level, screw it in all the way around, and we'll be good to go. So just so you have a feel of how that works, I've got my little kind of guide board there, put in at 14.5 inches up. So then the shelf can kind of rest on it. I can tip it up. I'll put a single screw into that stud first. That'll kind of get it held, and since the whole thing can pivot, I'll throw my level on it and get it level, and then pop in a screw over here. And then we'll do a couple more along the back just to get it stable. And then I'll deal with the side. Now this wall, of course, is not square because it's a basement, so why would it be? So I will have to shim a little bit along that stud just where this piece comes in, because I want to tow a screw in here for support as well. Don't have to worry about that on the other side because I'll be using just a single 2x4 vertical along that edge to hold that up. Now that our first shelf is in, properly shimmed and level, we move our spacer board up to 14.5 inches off of that shelf and pop that in. That'll give us an 18-inch spread for each of the shelves. And we'll do the same thing. We'll level it, shim it, screw everything in over there. And then once all of that is done, we have all 4. I'll move over to this corner and do the vertical that's going to support this kind of hanging corner, which is a little bit flexible right now. Once that's in place, we'll throw the plywood on it. All right, so my 4 shelves are in place. They're attached to the wall. The only thing that I still need to do is the support on that side because it is free floating. They are level, however, and they're attached both back here and along the back, so they should be nice and load bearing. Once I put the board on the other side, I think we'll be good, and then we'll get the decking in place. So then for the end support, just did the same exact process, essentially. Placed the board, used my level and made sure that I was nice and flat, and then I did 2 screws in the end of each of these, one that goes into this facing board and one that goes into the backboard, and then just ran it straight down. So this is rock solid, about as steady as I can make it. So now we'll go get the plywood and finish her off. All right, the plywood is on, everything is screwed in and stable. The only last step then is I'm gonna use a couple 1-inch screws and just tow a few screws into each of these pieces of plywood just to hold it so it doesn't slide around when we're taking stuff on and off the shelves, and then we'll be done. Just like that, this project is done, and we're ready to bring everything back in here and reload our storage room with all of the things that normally would be stored here. All told, this took 2 1/4-inch, or 1/2-inch rather, sheets of plywood, 4x8 plywood cut in half, and 14 8-foot 2x4s. With almost no waste. There's tiny little chunks left over from the cross cuts, but all told it used almost every bit of wood, so pretty efficient project. Used a bunch of 3-inch wood screws for the framing and for connecting it into the wall, and then just a small collection of 1-inch screws to hold down the decking. So this being the end of a DIY dad video, I owe you a dad joke, but before I do that, I have to say, like, I really like this. Like, this feels really good. Like, I'm happy with how it came out. I'm happy with how it looks. I'm happy with how I performed on this. I guess you could say that this project was really, really good for my shelf esteem. Now, they don't stay clean for long, but remember, with every DIY project, the most important step is just to do it. No one's going to see the flaws unless you point them out to them. Take care. We'll catch you on the next video.